Good morning, guys. It is 9:49 a.m. here on the East Coast, March 24th. I wanted to do today's vlog, literally the first thing I'm doing this morning. It's been a topic that's been on my mind for quite some time. I've had a couple discussions with my wife about it, and then we're raising my daughter, or at least I'm raising my daughter a certain way because of it. But it has to do with women and bravery, and bravery just in general. Um, I noticed after doing some research and reading some studies that bravery is lacking a little bit, and all this again is my own opinion according to the research that I've done. But bravery is lacking in women a little bit, and it's just because they're taught to from an early age to live a little bit safer. They don't take as many risks as boys growing up. Like if you see boys playing on monkey bars and jumping off stuff, they tend to either get hurt or take a lot more risk than ladies growing up. And it's just commonplace, something I noticed on the playground, something probably my parents noticed on the playground. And I talked to my parents about this briefly a while back. I talked to my wife about it, and they were, obviously a little bit more conservative and a little bit, yeah, they were a little bit more conservative in the way they acted when they were growing up. A little less brave, a little less um, courageous than boys just growing up. And I found that kind of intriguing because for me, if you think about the brave women in history, like the Rosa Parks or all these other brave women, that's the first one that came to mind. But all these other brave women in history, if you were really brave as a part of your upcoming, and you took a chance and you decided to be extraordinarily brave, you tend to be remembered for that, for whatever action you took. And I noticed that bravery in women really led to them being noticed more because it was somewhat out of character for them. And I mean this in a good way. It's just if you happen to be braver than your counterparts growing up as a woman, you um, tend to be remembered for that, like Amelia Earhart and her bravery, what it took for her, the courage that it took for her. And it could have been anybody that did that, but because it was a woman, it happened to be that more monumental, and they tend to be remembered. So to bring this back to our household, I tend to raise my daughter in a way to where she takes risk on her own accord. I don't force her into any risk that she doesn't want to take, but I don't stop her. I don't let fear control her. Fear is another huge factor, and I'll have to do a separate talk on that. But as far as bravery, I try to let her do things that she wants to, but within the guidelines of being brave. If she wants to go run into the ocean when the waves would for sure knock her out, I'm going to be behind her 110%, and I'm going to let her try and swim, let her try and figure it out, because it's that bravery that I think that will propel her into the future. And it's just, that's the sense that I have, and I believe that there's a little bravery missing from ladies and women in general. And again, this is my own opinion and just the way I see things, but you don't see them taking the kind of risks, and a lot of that is a proponent of people just saying that you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't play rough. There's a I want to say somewhat of a connotation of being a tomboy if you were that type of risk taker in the female hemisphere. So, and that's not necessarily true. My daughter is can be the sweetest little girl, and she could be the roughest little girl too, if we get to wrestling and playing around. But I treat her just as equally as I would treat a boy or treat a girl. I don't distinguish between sex when it comes to raising my daughter. There's certain things whereas you have to um, when raising a little girl, but when it comes to bravery, them, I treat my daughter the same as I would a boy, just to instill that bravery within her, and it's starting to surface a little bit. She's currently visiting her grandmother that lives in Arizona, and there's one here in Florida as well, but she's visiting the one in Arizona, and she was going down this huge slide. I mean, it was like 3 or 4 stories tall, and she's going down, and after she did the slide, she said that the other people there were scared to do it, but she wasn't scared. And that's kind of one of the things that I teach her, is that you don't have to be scared of anything. There's nothing in this world to be scared of at this point in time. You can do something like like a slide, for example, because things are very they're not exposed to all the damaging things of like realities and all the negative things that are out there in the world that could possibly hurt her. But when it comes to, doing something fun that's scary, I absolutely encourage her to try it. And I will lead by example and do it myself if I have to. But I will show her that nothing but good can come of it from a good time when it comes to like a theme park or amusement rides that she can go on. And she said that she wasn't afraid of that. I was very proud, and there's been many other moments just like that, to where I think about the bravery that I try to instill in her, and she takes it upon herself to do it that way. Like, I remember when we would go swimming in a pool, she can't swim all that well, but she will try, fearless of drowning. She will. We tried to not use those little arm floaties that a lot of people use to try and keep their kids, safe. And instead, we use other things to where they could still have that motion to try and swim, like a little the circular tube that goes around their waist. It enables them to swim a little bit more, or other devices that would enable her to swim. But she at times wanted nothing to do with that, and I'd take it off and she'd swim between me and my wife, or me and my brothers, or me and my brother's wives, and just swim in between us. And it was, for me, seeing that, it was very eye-opening that, these are the things that I'm trying to instill in her. And I believe that bravery is one of those things that needs to be instilled in women, but in men alike, but more so in women. And I do everything I can to try to instill that bravery in her and do the things that I can do and show and lead by example. Even if I'm afraid to do something, I try to take it head on. So she can see the example that I'm trying to set and see me trying to be brave. Unfortunately, she, just came into my life a couple of years ago, 4 years ago. So there was not a whole lot where she had to experience. She's only learning about, her dad at this point in time and every day forward, but not the previous dad that formed the dad of today. So, and there was a lot of brave things that went along with that. So, the only thing I can do is try to teach her the brave things that I've learned along the way, and hope that that resonates with her in future occurrences and things that she wants to do. And this video is not meant to target women or ladies whatsoever and say that they have a lack of bravery. It's just something I noticed. And I encourage you to look at the characteristics yourself as you kind of reflect back, and as you think about playing on a playground, if you were fortunate to do that, and seeing if you remember, little girls on monkey bars, or little girls doing things that little boys would normally do, as far as taking risks, and noticing if parents were the ones to stop them from taking those risks, stop them from achieving some sort of bravery. The other statistic that I want to put out there that I almost forgot is that a man applying for an application, let's say he's filling out an application for a job, they will think that they're qualified if they meet 50% of the criteria. Just 50. And that goes to show you that they end up getting these jobs because they're just applying at 50% of the criteria. They're not meeting all the criteria, they're just meeting half of it, and they're being brave and applying for the job even though they know that they don't meet the criteria. But what I found fascinating is that women tend not to apply unless they meet 90% of the criteria. So unless they meet 90 or more percent of the criteria, sometimes upwards of 100% of the criteria, meaning that they have to meet all the criteria on the application, they won't apply. So a lot of these jobs that these women are more qualified than men to do, they're not even applying for, thus they're going to men. And it just has to do, it ties into that bravery thing where men will take a chance on it and try to make the most of it. And if they don't get the job, then they don't get the job. But women need that reassurance, so to speak, and need to make sure that they're at least 90% qualified for the job. And a majority of the time, it ends up being 100%. They won't even apply unless they meet every single bullet point on that job application. And that's just something I found eye-opening. And I think it correlates to bravery. At least the talk that I was listening to correlated it to bravery, in a sense that men are braver to apply for those jobs even though they know they don't necessarily qualify, but they end up getting the job because nobody else applied. They could meet all of their qualifications, so they had to go with the person who met the most qualifications. And even if there was a woman who met more of the qualifications, let's be generous and say 75% of the qualifications, easily it'd be a better candidate than a male with 50% of the qualifications, but they don't apply unless they meet 90% or more of the qualifications. So I found that really interesting, and I'm trying to instill those types of things in my daughter to where you don't have to be perfect. You don't even have to be 50% perfect, but know that you're trying your best, and that best means something to somebody. So I found that very interesting study, and something I wanted to correlate in here. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos as usual. I did reach my goal of 50 subscribers. I woke up this morning to 51 subscribers, a jump from 49 yesterday. So I definitely appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys are still finding these videos interesting. I'm receiving some pretty interesting feedback and replying to the comments as I can. Again, this talk was not meant to be degrading to women whatsoever. Just more of an eye-opening thing that I found worthy to talk about. Not only that, but I'm raising my daughter in a manner that is more brave. It encourages her taking a little bit more risk and acting a little bit more brave. But I think that it would be a recipe for success in the future. If you look at some of the bravest women, they are some of the most recognized women. And I want my daughter to someday be recognized for some sort of bravery that took place in her life. And I can only groom her that way if I have the mentality of that. In a positive light, though. I don't mean any of this to be negative whatsoever. So that'll be it for today's talk. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, and I will see you guys on the next one.